welcome to Fossil Arcade. This time I'll be talking about HomeLand, one of the Gamecube's most obscure titles and its last online multiplayer game. Developed by Chunsoft, this cooperative RPG has been almost completely overlooked outside Japan. You should know right from the outset, HomeLand requires some extracurricular Gamecube knowledge, including the use of region freeloaders, homebrew software, and an enthusiasm for Japanese alphabets. This review will attempt to cover everything, from what it's like to play, to eliminating text errors, to playing a Japanese game when you can't read Japanese, and what remains of its online community. I discovered HomeLand thanks to revisiting Phantasy Star Online, and looking into what other online Gamecube games existed. In the system's 6-year lifespan, only 3 online multiplayer games were released, none of which were developed or published by Nintendo. A few first-party games did utilise the internet adapters for local LAN play, which was quickly manipulated into online play with the use of LAN tunneling. But if Nintendo didn't want to make online games, why make this adapter? As far back as 1999, public comments show Nintendo had no intention of offering anything like an online subscription for its mostly young fanbase. So it seems Nintendo wanted to have its cake and eat it too, by introducing the functionality but leaving all its online solutions to third parties in case it didn't work out. Naturally, not many developers were willing to take that risk. But for whatever reason, Chunsoft decided to give Gamecube Online one last chance, releasing HomeLand in 2005. Designed for online co-op, it features a great turn-based battle system and non-linear story progression, but of course you can play most of the game offline as a single-player RPG. After choosing to be a girl or a boy, you discover the heavens have selected you to serve a special purpose, to watch over the land of Entipaluna. You take control of either Block or Pinocchio, 2 mascots representing different areas of the world. Once you arrive in Entipaluna, there'll be several scenarios open to you. Depending on the paths you take, you can uncover different stories and adventures, which leads to plenty of replay value. There's 10 to play through. Every town you happen upon contains its own separate culture, adding the feeling that you're on a long, sprawling journey, despite the game world being relatively small. In the first story I played, the entire world is trapped in a shared dream by a nameless figure. You must venture into the dream world to put things right before everyone is doomed to sleep forever. Each conclusion of a scenario will earn you points which can be used to unlock further mascots. More story options will also open up with each revisit to Entipaluna. HomeLand's answer to the RPG party system lets you link mascots together by holding hands. This allows you to earn experience for your more vulnerable mascots whilst benefiting from their unique skill sets. Together, they're known as questers. Experience is earned by taking on the many monstrous creatures roaming Entipaluna. At low levels, these creatures will rush and attack you in hordes. Once met face to face, you'll be locked into a turn-based battle. There are a few methods of attack depending on the mascot, one being magical spells. Block can cast a number of thunder attacks, while Pinocchio's magic is used for healing. The menus make fun use of the Gamecube's octagonal thumbstick grooves, which makes flicking between different attack options nice and fast. The C-stick takes you directly to the magic menu. In heated battles, you'll be spinning this thing round like crazy. The selections are quick enough that each encounter feels like a fast-paced, multi-directional showdown. This cathartic user interface does a lot to ease the repetitive nature of the game. Though common in RPGs, it's definitely a prevalent issue in HomeLand. Overall, there's little gameplay variety outside of battling and exploration. Discovering the world and all its secrets is motivating in itself, but battling through everything alone can start to feel like a grind. HomeLand is built for cooperative gameplay, but there are no local multiplayer options outside of a LAN connection between multiple consoles. As a solo adventure, it's just missing a few extra distractions to expand the core experience. Still, the character shines through at all times, with a soundtrack among the Gamecube's very best and a visual style which is excessively warm and comforting even when thieves, golems and demons are beating you to death. The feeling of welcoming homeliness prevails over the entire game. However, HomeLand remains especially obscure. It isn't the only region-locked title in the console's library, but most Japanese games in a similar position still gain some cult following abroad. The fact is, there's a very specific issue with HomeLand, which means there's more than a language barrier between you and playing it. It's easy enough to load foreign region games on Gamecube. You can temporarily bypass the console's region lock protection by using a freeloader or action replay. But despite how simple that is to do, loading HomeLand on an English language Gamecube will unfortunately result in all on-screen text appearing as a glitchy, unreadable mess, which means you won't know what's going on whether you read Japanese or not. Usually, on-screen text in a Gamecube game is processed from fonts and graphics contained on the game disc. However, the console itself also has fonts available for its own operating system. In the case of HomeLand, the developers chose to use these system-based fonts for all their on-screen text, instead of including any fonts on the game disc. These are made up of 3 Japanese alphabets: hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Obviously, there's no need for these outside Japan, so any non-Japanese system won't access them. They're still there in the firmware, just locked away behind region-specific coding. The rest of the game operates perfectly, but for text, an English system can only produce these errors, as it attempts to load in Japanese fonts which simply aren't available. So playing this in 2005 would not only have required the Japanese game, but a Japanese console to go with it. The font situation has created a niche so small, only the most hardcore Gamecube or RPG fans would give this a chance. But as I mentioned, all region coding exists in all Gamecubes. It's simply locked away. With the right tools, it's possible to unlock those Japanese fonts and load the game correctly. With homebrew software available for Gamecube, it's possible to switch the font resource of your console before loading the game, without requiring a permanent system mod. This is thanks to a program called Swiss. If you want to try this, you'll need an SD card reader for your Gamecube and a disc which can boot files from it. Check the description for some helpful links and the Swiss download files. When loading the disc, just switch force text encoding from auto to SJIS, and the text will load correctly. The option to do this has only existed since around 2016, when Swiss was first released. Thanks to this, HomeLand might receive a little more attention from non-Japanese Gamecube fans. But I'm sure there are many people who would like to play HomeLand who can't speak or read Japanese. Luckily, there's some help for that too. Thanks to an incredible blog written by a player known as Putan, almost the entire game has been translated into a step-by-step English guide. Without this blog, myself and many others wouldn't have been able to enjoy HomeLand as much as we have. I'm very grateful to Putan for this blog. It's a little window into what could have been had HomeLand released outside Japan, though the on-screen text issue proves there was never an intention of that. Obviously, localizing an online-focused, non-linear RPG for Gamecube wasn't the most appealing choice for any game publisher in 2005. Its release also would have demanded further production of Nintendo's most neglected peripheral. Along with the blog and learning some Japanese of my own, I've also discovered a really friendly HomeLand community, which includes some die-hard players who still maintain an online presence. This has meant I've been able to play HomeLand online. The original server for the game shut down in 2007, but with HomeLand it's actually possible to set up the Gamecube itself as a server for other players. To connect, you'll need to know the public IP address of the player you're connecting to, as their system will provide a network point for you and all other players. As a quester, you're presented the same choices and scenarios as offline play, with the added bonus of cooperating with other players, working together to complete one scenario at a time. The hand-holding mechanic becomes more important online, as questers who join the game late can hold on to a more advanced player to share experience. This helps you to even out at an equal experience level to complete the adventure together. For the player providing the server, the game takes on a slightly different form, as you enter Godmode. As a god, you don't interact directly with the other players on your server, you actually observe the play from a bird's eye view. You can spy on the questers' progression as they travel through Antipaluna. Using god spells, you can send healing items or monsters depending on what kind of server you want to run. You can observe questers in almost any area, though not inside buildings. You also can't spawn helpful or hindering items inside towns. Communicating with each other is done by using a text keypad, similar to typing on an old mobile phone. It even includes an autocorrect function, so common or useful words can be easily repeated, a miracle if you only know a few Japanese words. And if you own a Gamecube keyboard, forget about it. That's a PSO accessory which won't work with HomeLand or any other Gamecube game for that matter. Funnily enough, it isn't even possible to play HomeLand online straight out of the box. It requires you to complete one of its story scenarios before allowing you to connect. This is a very good way of showing you the ropes before getting involved with other players. The option to host a server also requires unlocking. You'll also need to set up a port forwarding option on your internet router to provide a static IP address for other players looking to connect to your Gamecube. Most routers will allow you to do this with no need for secondary software. Godmode is obviously a very advanced stage of HomeLand play, and it's best left to the more experienced players. From the outset, you won't have many god spells to cast, and although it's great to let others play online, sitting by whilst you watch these little quester dots carry out the adventure is not exciting gameplay. But as there's no official server, someone has to volunteer from time to time. At the time of this video, there actually is a server perpetually online, which means one very generous HomeLand fan is leaving their Gamecube powered on and connected almost 24/7 for anybody to use. They may decide to stop providing this service at any time. With a community so small, it's important to stick together and to spread the word to other Gamecube fans. Unfortunately, I need to point out one last issue with HomeLand, as I've been unsuccessful when trying to connect to my European Gamecube online. When accessing HomeLand's online settings, the European Gamecube simply crashes. It appears to me that at the point these menus are accessed, the Gamecube is reassessing its region lock protection. As a result, any soft modding done with homebrew or freeloading is erased, and the system crashes whilst it's trying to load outside region content. If you only have a European Gamecube, you can still enjoy most of the game offline, and it really is a very well crafted one. It's just a shame that after removing all the other regional barriers, that the hardware still gets in the way. If you want to play HomeLand online without getting a Japanese system, look into adding a hard region mod to your console, though be sure to seek the advice of experienced modders before carrying this out yourself. I spent around 15 hours muddling through HomeLand before unlocking the online features, which I honestly really enjoyed. Fortunately though, I have a Japanese Gamecube in my collection, or I could have been very disappointed trying to connect unsuccessfully. Anyone else thinking of playing HomeLand should know it takes a significant investment of time, money and concentration if you want to play online. But I have to say, the road from discovering HomeLand to fumbling through its first scenario, learning some Japanese, meeting great people and then playing with them online has been everything I could hope for as a Gamecube collector. For most people, there'll be far too many barriers to entry. Yes, Swiss lets you play the game in its native language, but it's still a Japanese game. Even with Putan's blog, learning everything is like climbing a mountain. That's on top of the online community being very small and difficult to connect to. If you're still thinking of picking it up, it can be found surprisingly cheap online. SD card launchers are also quite common for Gamecube, while Swiss is entirely free. As it is, you need a ton of enthusiasm for Gamecube and Japanese RPGs to work through the problems. But if you put all the bizarre issues aside, HomeLand is still something unique. There's a game here which, had it released internationally, could have been credited as one of the console's very best titles. There is a lot of grinding, but I wouldn't have persevered if I hadn't been having so much fun. Even if online play is outside your grasp, all hardcore Gamecube collectors should consider playing HomeLand. Thanks for watching.